Hello, beautiful people. How you doing,
What
John?
is going on, guys?
Much, man. Hey, John, I didn't get a chance to tell you this while we're in the green room, but I kind of have a little bit of a topic, and I may need your help keeping up with the chat on it. Um, I want to make sure I'm kind of clear about the topic for tonight. I want to hear you guys' answers on knives that are super hyped, um, and I don't mean shitty knives. I mean knives that are probably really good knives, but you have zero interest in. Knives that you're hearing everybody talk about, everybody showing off, but you just have zero interest in. And then I'll cover mine. I'll talk about mine later on. I think some of you will be shocked, but this has nothing to do with where they're from, who they're made by, price range, any of that. If there's a knife out there that you keep hearing everybody talk about, and building up and hyping that for some reason just don't do anything for you, that's kind of what I want you guys to put that in the comment section so I can get an idea.
Without hurting anybody's feelings.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's I think knives talk to everybody differently. And I know I early on and even still am victim of the hype train. It's
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of like fear of missing out. You see something, it does look great, but I've started to look more of where's it going to fit a space in my collection that has some kind of uniqueness, whether it's action, whether it's some kind of innovation, or whether it's a blade shape. I'm more careful, I think, because I'm trying to buy a little bit higher end knives, where I used to go after everything and I bought into the hype.
Yeah.
And I'll just start off with, I think, a video I did, one of the biggest hyped ever knives to this day is a Civivi Elementum.
Yeah, that's a good example. And like I
I
said,
got one early on, and it never. I carried it very seldomly.
and guys, it can be from a Ganzo to the new Evo 3.0. Just anything that you're kind of tired of hearing about because it doesn't interest you at all. I just kind of like to see. And like I said, I'm not here to, I don't want to bash anybody's knives or designs. I just there's some knives out there that people get excited about that I just can't, and I don't really know why, but I'd kind of like to see you guys' take on it too. I see Brand New American said the Protect Malibu. Um, I can agree with that one a little bit. I appreciate the action of it, but I
The
think
amount of hype is off the chain, and I agree that it's overhyped.
yeah, I just I never pulled the trigger on it. I started to several times, but I love Protect, man. I just how do I put this?
It used to be a more affordable knife. Button locks weren't a dime a dozen, and Protect still does action and American made and quality materials probably as well as anyone. I won't say better, but as well. But now you've got Kaiser Originals. You've got Civivi, what is it? Anticeptor, or what that little one's called. You've got the new CJRB Pyros, which I've heard nothing but fantastic things about. So button locks aren't, you don't have to spend an arm and leg and chase one that you might, frustrate yourself 20 times before you land it.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
think
I
that
agree with that.
it's probably rare that we get a knife that's been hyped, and then 2 years later we're still super excited about it. But the ones that we are, I think, are those are gonna be legends. And the Malibu may very well be one of those for a lot of people.
And I'll
Um,
inject this for the last time and then I'll quit interrupting. But the Malibu is one that every knife that we talk about, it's going to be subjective to some extent, where it's something that personally speaks to us. And that's kind of where I get fascinated by knives. But this guy, when I finally got it, this is actually my second one because this one's textured and I got rid of the one that was straight aluminum. But
right.
I'm every bit as pleased with this knife today as I was the day it came in and I pulled it out of that sock and it was the aluminum straight finished one, but just it's not fancy. It's a single method of deployment, which I'm a no-no guy now. And I just really, this one started out with a lot of hype. I don't necessarily think that it could be up to the level of hype that it's hyped. But it's one that is in my top 10.
I'll tell you what got it for me was I made the mistake of going down the Super Steel heat treat rabbit hole, and it kind of kept me from buying some Protex for a little while because of the softer heat treats. Guys, I'm not one of those people that's going to tell you a knife is shit because it has a softer heat treat. People do things for a reason. I understand those reasons, but it just kept me from wanting a Protec at the moment. I'm super excited about MagnaCut now because it seems like everybody is getting on board with doing 63 to 64. Guys, I have absolutely fell in love with this knife, and it may just very well be just because of the steel. But this is the American Blade Works Model 1 version 6 in MagnaCut. Brian HRC this knife for me. It was 63.8, and I was telling John, I cut things for no reason. Every cardboard box I find, we don't have recycling here, but I cut it into tiny strips just so I can get as many cuts in as I possibly can. I've been doing that all day, every day, and man, I just it's still razor sharp. It's still hair popping sharp. I touched it on a strop one time. I don't even think I really needed to, but I did. So if everything goes to this, it's going to make it easier for me because there are models and designs out there that I love that I wasn't purchasing, because they were 20 CV at 59 HRC, and I wasn't going to spend my money on that. So
Juggling Ninja, Stacy, Budget Guy, everybody in the chat, great to see you. And I've been learning as much as I can about heat treats and know why a higher heat treat number is good, but also have learned from, again, it's subjective. Again, cutting test and edge retention is important, but also the purpose of the knife.
Yeah.
Not everybody, I think Rick Hinderer could heat treat his knives higher if he didn't want to lose any of the strength in the blade. And I think it just depends on what that goal is. I think some of them, it could be laziness and that they think that they can get away with it. So why push the envelope anymore? But let's think about it. If you've got a good recipe for a heat treat, is it that much harder to hit a number as opposed to another number if we're talking about 58 to 62?
It's not. For Rick, it's as simple as calling Peters and saying, "Hey, I wanted it at 63."
Right.
They charge a little more because it does wear on the oven
and take more time.
But who wouldn't pay $10 or $20 more? But the thing is, I'm glad you brought that up, man, because something that's been bothering me a little bit was, like, I think that the Hinderer heat treat situation would have already gone away if it wasn't for the way that he treated Brian. But I want to be real clear about something. Brian tested one knife that was at, 58.4, I think, instead of 59. If I owned that knife, I wouldn't be mad about it. The reason I say that is because for what I buy a Hinderer for, I'm not super concerned about high edge retention.
Right.
I did speak up on it when it happened, and I spoke up on it out of passion because of how he treated Brian. It wouldn't stop. I still want a Hinderer. Would I rather have it at a higher HRC? Absolutely, because the HRCs that we're talking about that we want his knives at doesn't decrease the toughness.
No, it doesn't. It's within the metallurgical specs of what it should perform at.
Right. But the reason I wanted to talk about it is because now we've all gotten in the habit of just talking about Rick Hinderer makes shit knives. Guys, that's not true. He's been making those knives with that same heat treat for years. He just happened to test one that was, a half a point under. In all honesty, everybody knew I bought this knife at Blade Show. Everybody knew how excited I was about this knife. It's October. When's the last time you saw this knife?
Just
I haven't
recently.
talked about it.
Just
I haven't talked
recently.
about it because I had a bad heat treat. Brian just wanted to look at it. He was more interested in the geometry, and I asked him to test it for me. I'm not going to talk about the numbers, but they were bad. They were off the chart bad. I got in touch with Michael Martin. He immediately apologized. Told me to send that. Whatever I wanted him to do, he was willing to do it. Brand
Which
new.
is awesome.
And I was like, oh man, just make me another blade. Well, I was without my knife for 3 or 4 months. And the reason for that is not because it was poor customer service, but he was trying to figure out what was happening, why that happened before he just shipped me another blade. And I'm not going to get into the details of it. I kind of believe that there was something wrong with the steel itself, because if you do identical heat treats on multiple blanks, you're doing exactly the same and you're coming up with different numbers, something's not right there. So the reason I'm even more excited now is because he's no longer doing heat treats. He no longer heat treats in house. He's having Peters do it. He switched to MagnaCut at 63 to 64 HRC, and now he's realized that not only does he have a better product, but the hours he was spending sitting in front of a heat treat oven, he can now grind more blades and just ship them and have them heat treated. So he can put out more knives. Because I know a lot of people complain that I'd like to have an ABW, but every time I go to the website, they're all gone. So hopefully within the next few months, he's thinking he may be able to double his production.
Just because he's not having to sit over that oven and spend, because that's a critical time that you have to spend making knives.
Absolutely. Tactical Center's talking about a lot in the chat that, and he's 100% correct. I could come on here and talk about 62 HRC, 63 HRC all day and convince people who don't know any better that that's all that matters, when it's really not. I mean, you can have a knife at 64 HRC that's garbage. That's the honest truth. It's got a lot to do with microstructure. As far as the quality of the blade and the cutter, it has a lot to do with geometry. There's a lot of things that go into it. So that's why I feel bad that we labeled Rick Hinder knives as bad. His knives weren't bad. He had a slightly soft example, and his response was bad.
His response was bad. It was pouring gasoline on a fire that could have easily been just.
John, I'm still seeing people in the chat, not necessarily right this minute, but I'm still seeing people in other chats talking about Medford's MagnaCut being at 58. Because that was an issue for like 2 days. I mean, he posted that. First of all, there was never a Medford knife made in MagnaCut at 58. His target was 59, was 58 to 60. They were all coming in around 59, but because he said 58 to 60, everybody just jumped on 58. Well, that is too low for what we want. Would it have worked for his knives? Yes, but he fixed it, and that's the issue that I have. I like to bring up when makers aren't giving us what we're paying for as much as anybody else does. But I think if we're going to do that, we have an obligation to also inform the public when they've corrected an issue.
Absolutely.
We're using I don't want to say influence. I don't have any influence, but just because we all come together as a group of people and spread information, if we're using that to spread negative information, we also need to use that to spread positive information. And that is that he has fixed that. Medford MagnaCut's at, 63 to 64 HRC now. Now, if you don't like Medford knives the way they look, how thick they are, hey man, don't buy one. If you don't like his politics, so be it. Don't buy one. But they're not at 58. We got to quit. We got, Erica ran across a BGM knife in Magna Cut with a port heat treat. John looked into it. His thermocoupler was bad. Sure enough, he had some bad heat treats out there. He fixed it. Um, you know, and these are people. Some of these people are people that I'm close to and friends with that are calling people out when they find an issue, and I'm just a little disappointed that they're not taking that same amount of time to inform the people that they have fixed it.
Yeah, and give them a chance to fix it because nobody's perfect and nobody knows till it's tested.
Exactly. My first knife I ever made, guys, it's this butt ugly Wharncliffe fixed blade that I made. I didn't care what it looked like. I built it for a purpose, and it works for that purpose. And I messed up. I started out with a file from the 1950s, so I knew it was a high carbon steel. I knew it wasn't. I can't remember what they call that now. I knew it wasn't case hardened. I knew it was hardened all the way through, and I did the temper on it at 200 degrees, 2 cycles for 2 hours each. I should have did it 400. The knife's entirely too hard. It's really hard to get an edge on. It's probably going to break if I drop it. I'm not a professional knife maker, but I'm just agreeing with what you're saying. It's easy to make a mistake.
Right.
And so, yeah.
What's going on, Sean, Blades and Fades, and Gonzo, and everybody else who came in, Marcos?
John, did you know that Mr. Sean over at Blades and Fades that dude's becoming quite famous, man.
He's a sharpening legend, man.
Yeah, his channel's doing well, but dude, I go to some of these other chat groups or these other live streams like the Spyderco Millie Club. They talk about Sean like he's the be all end all of knife sharpening, and he may very well be. I've seen some of his videos. He makes some beautiful, beautiful edges.
The edges are gorgeous.
Yeah, I thought he was just one of us. I didn't realize he was kind of universal. Everybody out there knows who Sean is because of his sharpening.
Absolutely, and he's an awesome guy.
Oh, he is. Man.
I think he and I might have been on Knives Live the first night I met him in our 5 o'clock slot with Red Wolf. I know it was Andrew, but I think it was also Sean. I think it was the 4 of us. I got to find a guest at 4 o'clock in the morning besides my cat, or I'm liable to fall asleep on stream.
I'll jump in with you for a little while at least.
I'm staying up all 24 hours. I've decided I'm not going to peter out and have even that little hour and a half nap that made me miss DTOM last year.
Yeah. Well, I didn't take a slot, but simply because I wanted to be able to jump on with some folks for 15, 20 minutes. If it goes well, maybe the whole hour or whatever. But yeah, I'll jump. I won't leave you by yourself, man. I'll jump in with you for a little bit.
You're welcome. You and anybody are welcome. And I know I've got a copy of the schedule in case you wanted to talk about it tonight, and want to make sure I share that out to everybody who needs it. But the other thing is I want to get together with some of the channels, because when I talked to Doug last at Blade Show, his one request was that he could have a little bit more 10 or 15 minutes on the streams where it's convenient for his time. He doesn't stay up late at night, he said. And I told him, absolutely. I know what I need to do is reach out to him. Do you think that'd be best, and let him maybe choose ideal times for him?
I don't like having to tell anybody what they have to do. I know Bob DeMarco already asked if he could ask Doug.
What time's his? Well, I can look right here. Hold on. I got it right here.
Okay.
So Mr. Bob DeMarco.
I think he's Saturday afternoon sometime, if I'm not mistaken.
Night Junkie, 2 o'clock. Yep, that'd be a perfect time.
Yeah,
but so, the kind of time.
He could do a couple of spots, prime time Friday night as well. So, yeah, that's not an issue at all.
Yeah,
we got guys in here that don't have channels like Ian G. Ian likes to jump on lives, man. He's more than welcome to reach out.
Absolutely, that's what made last year so much fun. Ian and anybody else was having somebody else, because last year I was just jumped on, like I said, with the Red Wolf and then late night because they needed somebody. But it's more fun anytime we have a chat when there's more than one person. The only downside is it's nice when there's three where somebody can read comments.
Yeah.
That's why Grateful Panic's such an asset to have him sitting in on the live stream because he can definitely keep up with the comments.
Yeah.
But yeah, the more the merrier.
Yeah, it's got to a point now where there are more people that want involved than there are spots. That's a huge improvement over last year. So, we'd love to have Sean. And guys, if you have a spot, feel free to reach out to whoever you want to be your guest. If you want to be a guest, feel free to reach out. Look at the schedule. Find a spot that you'd like to participate in. Reach out to those folks, man. A lot of these guys on StreamYard can have up to 10 guests. I'm sure that they'd love to have you. So, I guess what I'm getting at is don't wait for somebody to tell you, hey, we want you to be on this hour. That's not going to happen. Take the initiative, man. Reach out to whoever you'd like. Somebody that you think your chemistry will work well with, and get on there. Y'all see, the budget guys in here. Gonzo's in here. There are all kind of people in the chat right now that would make great guests.
Absolutely. Gonzo's welcome with me if he's up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. 4 a.m.'s tough.
No, it's not. To me, that's
not out.
Well, that's what I did last year. And right after I got through, I went down to Hardee's and got a big biscuit and gravy, got a huge coffee. And somehow when I came back, the coffee was in my lap. Luckily, it cooled down before I fell asleep because I woke up with coffee all over me, not knowing where I was. I mean, it was bizarro.
Yeah, I remember that.
Trying to save this as an image to put it on my community tab, this schedule, because I don't know how to. It doesn't look like I can upload a PDF.
Nah, I've no idea, John. I depend on you for all that.
I'm gonna figure it out right here. But
Scott N wouldn't be a bad guest either, man. I don't think a lot of people realize what Scott N does for the community, but that guy puts together a schedule for every live podcast that he knows is happening every day and puts it out there on Instagram.
Agreed. I mean, I think Scott is the reason why people know where to go and how to get there and why to go.
Yeah, and that's awesome, man. I mean, I don't do something for the community every day. That guy literally does that every single day. That's really cool.
Very cool.
I did see. I guess maybe we got to talking. The Malibu was the only knife I saw pop up that people felt like. And like I say, guys, it doesn't have to be that you think it's a bad knife. It could be a great knife. It's just something that everybody seems to be interested in, but you're not. And I'll go ahead and talk about mine. Mine's the.
That's funny, pal.
Mine's the Riot Exo. I appreciate it. I see the cool factor, but it doesn't do anything for me. But I think that's because of I think it just falls into that OTF issue that I have with the because of the design. It's 100% necessary for the blade to be fairly skinny compared to the hand. And I detest that.
You like a thicker blade.
Yeah, my OCD, I just can't stand to look at it. So that's why the EXO is one for me. I just don't I just can't get into it. Patina's put up the winter blade. I'm sure that would be a very controversial answer. I'm kind of on the fence about it. I can take it or leave it, but yeah, mine's the EXO. I just can't. I can't get into that skinny blade and that chunky handle. But that also keeps me from owning OTF. So.
Yeah, and I would think the EXO, I can understand the OTFs, but I would think the EXO with your hands might be something that worked for you.
It does. It does. It just I can manipulate it just fine. It's just the looks don't do it for me. that's one thing I love about this knife. This Davy Clark Banto that I just recently acquired. Mr. Satu Dave loaned this to me for a review, and the day I got it, he messaged me and told me it was mine.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, but one of the reasons why I love this knife, if you look, can you see where that blade stops? It's like a 1/16 of an inch from the handle. So it's all the blade. It's all the blade you can pack into the handle. And then when you look at the profile of the knife, the blade is the exact same width as the handle. Some might say it's a little bit boring because it's so symmetrical, but I really like a wide blade. But now it can get to a point to where if the blade is, twice as wide as the handle, it kind of gets on my nerves a little bit too. But that's one reason why I enjoy this knife so much, is because it's got all the blade you can get, to fit inside this handle, and the blade's plenty wide, just like the handle is. That's what I like. Now, that's just my personal taste of it.
I think it's awesome. Is anybody else throwing up anything in there where the hype train's got on? I'll throw one more out there that might make a lot of people sick, but it's one that's pre-ordering right now. Maybe if it just doesn't speak to me. I know it's a great knife, but it's the Voodoo. The Knives Voodoo. It's too pokey for me. It's not. It just doesn't speak to me like it does a lot of people. And I know it's a great knife.
Yeah. E&G, you're 100% right, man. That guy. I'm 51 years old. I don't have any shame anymore, so I don't mind admitting that I teared up a little bit. Not only is this a Davy Clark custom Banto, he only made 5 of these knives ever, and all 5 of them were different. And what I mean by that, they had a different finish and a different milling on the scale. So this is one of 5, but it's also one of 1. There's not another one like this anywhere in the entire world. That means the world to me. I'd be afraid to even look at what it's worth. I don't care what it's only worth $2. I don't care. It's the fact that Dave had come to find out has been sending me knives, kind of dipping his toe in the water, to kind of get a taste for which one I was really going to fall in love with. And we've gone through Medfords, we've gone through Striders, and I tell him I love experiencing those knives and him loaning them to me, but I probably wouldn't own them or carry them. And this knife I absolutely would. I'll be honest, guys. I own a Sebenza, and I rarely ever carry it because it's thumb stud. I don't do good with thumb studs, and I struggle with the lock bar a lot more on it than I do this one. And this flipper tab, man, look, you see that?
Yeah, I mean,
what makes that great is if you look, there's a choil in front of it. That flipper tab is so skinny.
You can trigger it.
Yeah, your fingers are still touching. Look, you can't even see it. So I can choke up on this, and the flipper tab is not in my way at all. However, it's still there keeping my hand from coming up on the blade accidentally. I think that's an awesome design. I love this thing. I know it's not, the tip's not further down, great for opening packages, all that stuff. But
no, but it'll still open packages all you need it to.
Oh man, that belly is.
What's going on, G-Ball?
Screaming sharp now. Kyle, big old pocket pecker. But Kyle, I enjoy a big pecker.
The big pocket peckers are efficient for flipping knives, believe it or not. I like the low profiles, but.
And I don't know about you guys, I don't carry anything else in my right front pocket.
No, I don't either.
If I do, it's a can of dip, so the pocket pecker doesn't matter anyway. Yeah, I just I like flippers, so I quit carrying. I alleviated that issue by not putting things in my pocket that was going to matter.
I'm going to throw another knife out because nobody else is. And this I know you're in love with, and I can understand why people are, but the Manix 2 and 15V. I don't know why I need 15V. I've got a Manix in Crewwear.
Yeah.
And Manix 2. And granted, I know a lot of people love different steels, but I could take it or leave it. What is it about 15V? Because I'm ignorant. I mean, educate me that makes it that
Not
much.
just that it's 15V, so it has a super high vanadium content, which means it's going to be really hard and wear resistant if heat treated correct. The main reason I want that knife is because Big Brown Bear collaborated with Spyderco on the heat treat.
Okay.
Big Brown Bear is one of those guys. I think Brian would agree to you that he's levels above Brian as far as pushing the envelope. Big Brown Bear probably throws away more blades than he sells. Um, he loves finding that perfect heat treat to get, you know, the maximum amount of toughness or the maximum amount of edge retention that that he can, and that's why I want it. It's just because Sean was in on the heat treat.
Yeah, I did not even know that. I learn something every day. I mean, that does make it more special for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to answer brand new Americans question: is a Sebenza overhyped? I think that is very subjective, and what I mean by that is if you're into knives and knife history and you go back and you look at Chris Reeve and what he's done in the knife community, um, and you see how many awards he's won. To me, the Sebenza is a piece of knife history, so it's worth every penny. Um, as a user, it's an excellent knife. Now, before they switched to MagnaCut, it didn't have super high edge retention. It was just your average S35 VN, to be honest. And just so you guys know, in most tests, that comes out to about 150 feet of fine edge cutting cardboard before it quits shaving, and around another 100 feet before it quits cleaning cutting paper. That's not a super steel, in my opinion. I think to combine those two numbers need to be over 300 feet before I consider it a super steel. And there's some 14C out there that does that though. So, but anyway, if the knife doesn't interest you, brand new American, then absolutely it's overhyped and overpriced. If the history of it, and if you're really into very precise and very tiny tolerances, then yes, it's worth every penny. So
Again, it goes back to being so subjective because for me, it's 100% overhyped. And it's something that I've seen, that I've held, that I've handled. But that's just because it's not for me. It doesn't mean that it's not, the tolerances are perfect. I mean, for what it is, it's a beautiful specimen. But for knives are really, you think about back in the day when we did get gas station knives, and let's all face it, they were cool as shit. But we all got different types. We might have all had the Rambo knife, but we all got different flares to our knives. And that doesn't change when you get into different knives.
Yeah. Kyle, I agree with you, man. 14C, it's mind blowing. When you start reading those charts and you realize that your $50 your $50 Chinese knife with 14C blade 90% of the time is outcutting most $350 to $450 M390 20CV 204P LMAX. There's a ton of steels out there that we consider super steels that 14C is wiping the floor with, and I don't understand why we continue to call it a budget steel. I mean, if the price for a plate of it is cheap or inexpensive, to me that doesn't make it a budget steel. If it performs better than most, then I feel like it deserves to go into super steel status if it's performing that way.
I'll tell you who I wish was in here is Dark Gravity, because he makes a lot of really good points about the cost of raw materials. And he works in the steel industry. So if you're looking at whatever quantities you're buying and you're looking at M390 Now there are supply issues, which makes them harder to get, but he makes it seem, at least in my experience, that it's almost negligible from a maker standpoint if you're buying a quantity of steel. Now I know there's tooling variances, wear and tear on equipment. Some things are easier to heat treat, easier not to. But I think there's a lot more that goes into it. I think if the market says I love M390, if influencers are saying it and people are asking for it, that the makers are going to make it and then put a premium on it because it's getting hype.
Right. Even though it's not,
and hype sales.
even though the end product isn't any better than like CPM's talking about, the end product's no better than 154 CM.
Exactly.
In some cases, not as good.
Exactly.
But like CPM's talking about, a lot of high-end custom knives are 154, and he said that's not a premium steel. I would agree, it's not a premium steel; it's a good steel. But I don't know, which would you rather have? Would you rather have the 154 CM with a good heat treat doing all it can do, or for the same money or possibly more, paying for M390 that's not doing half what it? Because guys, don't get me wrong, M390 is a super steel. If you look at like Spyderco's test results for their M390 20CV, it's amazing how good that steel is. But Gerald at Outpost 76 will tell you that he has tested over 80 varieties of M390/20CV, over 80 knives, and less than 10 of them have broke the 300-foot mark. Now that's 300 feet. That's combined. That's the fine edge and the working edge. That's not acceptable, man. It's not acceptable for that to be
that much of a ratio of
right, and for it to get the hype that it's getting, and to bring the price that it's bringing. Somebody asked a question earlier about, is there a knife under $300 that compares to a Sebenza? That's a very good question. I don't remember who it was answered. I couldn't catch it. One that comes to my mind, and a lot of you guys are going to disagree with me, because this knife is not a super steel either. It's just a mid-grade steel. It is 2 slabs of titanium. I'm sure the tolerances aren't quite as good yet. However, this company is getting better every day. It was Blade Ogre that asked. I don't know that they're there yet, but I'm very interested in that $295 Tour Knives Merchant. Now, I know Stasa bought a Merchant when they first come out. It had a horrible lock failure that scared a lot of people off from it. They fixed that. I'd really like to get a hold of a current model to see how good it is. I'm not going to expect it to be, like I said, I'm not going to expect the tolerances to be, at Chris Reeve level. But at $300 to get a knife that looks a lot like a Sebenza, and if the quality is close, then yeah, I would think that would be a decent choice for a under $300 Sebenza like knife. But you got to keep in mind too, Blade Ogre, when you ask, are you asking about the quality craftsmanship, or are you asking about the usability as a cutting tool? Because as the usability as a cutting tool, this $200 knife is every bit as, I'm just gonna be honest, this is better a cutting tool than the Sebenza. That Manix 2 in 20 CV laying over there is every bit better a cutting tool than the Sebenza. But I think with the Sebenza, there's just that there's that class that comes along with it. It's a beautiful knife. It's not fidgety. Now, Justin, I see he's here, Mr. from OCD for EDC. I know Justin can tune one, put a little slick 'em all in there, and get some decent action out of this thing. But we're not all Justin. I can't do that. But I wasn't interested in this knife for the action. However, the action that it does have, even though it's not drop shut, it's not even shake shut, but when you push that thing down and feel how just oiled glass smooth it is, it's a thing of beauty. Um, I'd love for my knife to operate like Justin can make it, can make one do, but that's not why I purchased this knife. So, but yeah, there are plenty of cutting tools out there that would be excellent replacements for a Sebenza. So, yeah, blades and fakes.
Yeah, those. I forget if it's Arnold or Arno Bernard knives. Tri-State did something on one of his lives where he found them from a place called African Sporting.
Yeah, now those are still around 450 though, John.
Yeah, they're not under 300, but they are a good bit less money. And when I saw the review on it, I was impressed with it, even though it's not my jam for a knife. So
it would be more my jam because it's a flipper.
And I think the Kung Wu Tao is it's doesn't have the tolerances, but in terms of the overall thickness and the overall profile, that's an under $200 knife.
I've never owned a Tao, but I've played with yours briefly, and everybody in here by now knows I'm all pro American, but I'm also honest. That is a excellent made pocket knife. Some of the Max A stuff is excellent, but back to that Sebenza guy, I can't even. It's not that I just can't thumb flick this thing. Most of the time, I got it that time. Most of the time, I can't even slow roll it. The thumb stud's horrible. I don't understand why they haven't changed that yet. But
is it just small? I know Richie does a lot of mods and changes them out. Is it just a small thumb stud?
It is. It's small and it's pokey. And keep in mind though, guys, 90% of that's me. 90% that's my fault. I struggle with all thumb stud knives, and yeah, so don't blame the Sebenza for that. Most of that's on me. I will say I love my Sebenza. And the way that I acquired mine, I think Super Still Steve was still groggy from the nut tap at Blade Show when he gifted me that thing. But so it means a lot to me, outside the fact that it's a really, really well made American knife. So,
What's up, Scotty Sobex? Bluminati.
That you can enjoy just as much. It all depends on where your priorities lie. If you don't mind buying it for him. And that was something else I want to talk about now. I talked about it some in chat, and I'm always scared that people are going to read something I say in chat, and all they're going to see is that sentence and draw more from it than what it is. I have, from the beginning of getting into the knife community up until this very moment, I will tell you that I think the sexiest knife ever made is the Rotten Designs CKF Evo.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just the most badass looking knife I've ever seen. The only thing that stops me from buying that, and it's not, first of all, it is a Russian company. However, we know they don't make the parts. The parts are made in China. I can get over both of those. What keeps me from buying that knife is the fact that it's made by Kevin John, who actively makes Sebenza clones. That's where I draw the line.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're not making homages. They're making Sebenza ripoffs. So as a company, I can't buy from them. That breaks my heart because I would absolutely love to own that knife.
It'll save your thumbnail though by not buying that knife, because it does have what I consider a design flaw. When you go to drop it, it drops so hard, especially on the 2.0. I don't know about the 3.0. I know Kevin got it yesterday and sold it, but when that knife drops, that's what split his thumbnail, and that's what split tri-states because where the choil comes in, it has such a sharp point. So when it drops, it's literally like that point as a spike hitting your nail.
Yeah. Yeah, so people might make fun of me. This was not, no, it's not a good example. But if I have a knife that's like that, that the forward finger choil terminates right at that very sharp point, I actually take, I've got an old Lansky stone here. I knock that very tip off. I'm losing, I don't know, a 64th of an inch of cutting edge. It's very, very minute, but I knocked that tip off just because I've been bitten so many times because my finger, my hands are kind of fat, and when I really bear down the cut and I do that squeeze, my finger kind of flares out and ends up pushing itself
into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always remedied that by just knocking just that tip off. Keep that from happening.
And just use a little stone to do that, just to.
Yeah, I've got an old set of Lansky, the aluminum oxide that I don't use anymore. All I use them for is surfacing my veneer. And, because I'm dragging it across a very sharp, acute point, I don't want to hurt my good stones. That's what I use that for. But yeah, I just knocked that edge off to make it a little safer for me.
You still sharpening a lot?
Yeah, good bit. I just do my stuff. I don't sharpen for the public. And the reason I don't is because I still have issues where, a prime example was my Benchmade Super Free. I could whittle hair with that thing. I had it that sharp. I was extremely happy with it. But if I slowly ran it through a piece of paper, there was a spot about a quarter of the way through the belly that would snag. I sharpened it multiple times. I stropped it multiple times. I've honed it. I looked at it under a magnifying. I can't find what it is that's causing that snag, but it's there. And so therefore I don't sharpen for the public. But I'm glad you brought that up because I've got a video coming up, guys. I just got a package in the mail, and I guess you can see my mod from my channel here is Mr. Kyle Kunel. I picked Kyle because I feel
Captain
like
Kyle.
I feel like we have the same brain sometimes. But he sent me this Migron. This is the first chance I've had to handle this knife. And I want to say, guys, for $50, I don't even care what this steel is. It could be HCR and I wouldn't care. But for $50 with these shadow box liners, this Fuller, milled titanium clip, this is an absolute steal. But Kyle sent me these knives, not to review, but to let me experience his edges because Kyle has a sharpening service. I'm not going to jump out there, and I don't think Kyle's going to jump out there and say, hey, I'm better than Jared Neve or I'm better than Blades and Fades. But let's face it, guys, some of these guys book. I think Jared Neve's books are closed for 6 months. He's 6 months out on sharpening a knife. I don't know where Sean's at, but it's great that we have options, and I don't think a lot of people are aware of all the options that are out there. So you guys see Kyle in the chat all the time. That's Kyle Kunel, Kuhnle. He's my mod on this channel. He's just as easy to find on Instagram. I don't know prices. That's not for me to say, but I can tell you that Kyle knows how to sharpen a knife. This thing is scary sharp. And by that I mean it's one of those edges that as soon as you touch it, you can feel it removing your fingerprint. Something in your mind tells you to stop doing that. So yeah, that was the other topic I wanted to talk about tonight. We got kind of rambling, but is services and products within our community. Guys, we are so fortunate that we have so many opportunities to do business with our friends right here in the community. like I said, Justin from OCD for EDC was in here a minute ago. Justin sells knives. Justin invents tools to make knife maintenance easier or
Make knives better.
yeah,
Make knives usable.
he doesn't get near enough credit. I don't know if he invented the CME or if the
Yes.
design was out there. I know that there are some 3D printed ones out there. Justin's are not 3D printed. His are actually milled. That just makes for a stronger, better product. But guys, that simple little piece of plastic that he made changed everything about the compression lock on the Spyderco for a ton of people. I'm right-handed. However, the majority of my nerve damage is in my right hand. I can use it. It's strong. I just don't have a lot of fine motor skill with it. So I've had to train myself. Almost everything I do with a knife, I do with my left hand. Compression lock sucks left-handed. With a CME, it is not. Justin doesn't get near enough credit, but and then his Slick 'em All, I feel like, I just don't think there's a better lubricant out there right now.
I'm on my second too.
It's awesome, man. So you got Justin and Molly that are selling products and have services. You've got guys like Kyle and Sean at Blades and Fades and Jared Neves doing sharpening service. I know they're not the only ones. I can't remember. I talked to a guy a couple of years ago that has a sharpening.
And Sean's books are open, by the way. He threw it.
I saw that. He said his books are open. Is it Freak Show? Is it Mr. Freak? Is he?
I think he does some sharpening, but I'm not 100% sure. I think I saw
another
talking about it today.
I'm forgetting. Yeah, and of course there's Emler. Emler's got a sharpening service as well. I think he specializes in the convex edges. I don't know, like Jared will tell you that he can do them, but if he will even tell you if that's what you want, send it to Emler because he's best at it. And I've experienced one of his edges. I got an XM24 in. Guys, that's a beefy, super thick behind the edge. It's just hard to make that knife scary sharp. And it was. I couldn't really wrap my head around how sharp that edge was when you could actually see. You didn't even need a jeweler's loupe. You could just see it. I mean, it just rounded off like an axe. It was so thick, but that final edge was as sharp, every bit as sharp as this super thin behind the edge knife right here is. So you got them. Then you got Bill Pro X 1840. Guys, he doesn't have social media, but trust me, there are plenty of us in here that can get you in touch with him. Bill is making custom scales for liner lock knives. I've got a knife coming, so be expecting a video on that. And I had an Artisan Tradition, which I feel like is their most underrated knife. Had it forever, never carried it because it was a Smoky Mountain Knife Works exclusive with copper scales, and it was a brick. It was just entirely too heavy, so I've never carried it. So he made me some micarta scales, so I'll be showing that off. We've already seen several people that have got knives back from Bill and the scales that he's making. You've got Miss Allie Cord Perry, however you say her name. She's making some awesome products. EDC Roundtable. Guys, none of these people are getting rich. None of these people are taking advantage of us or trying to get rich off the community. It's just, yeah, absolutely, Stacy. I'm glad you said that. I'm not going to be able to mention them all, but Backpack B is doing mods. Parker Customs doing mods. I know Mark, OG. Guys, we really don't have to go anywhere else. You know what I mean? Almost anything we want or need is available within our little small community. And when I say that, it's because the knife community as a whole is enormous. But what a lot of you guys don't realize is most of us don't communicate. You got that whole Knife Nuts podcast side of the community. There is some intermingling, but we're not as connected as I feel like we should be.
Yeah, I feel like our little group is a tribe, and I call it a little group because there are so many people out that are knife enthusiasts. And that's one of the benefits, I think, of Knife Live outside of what we can do for Knife Rights is hopefully bring some of these people from other platforms that are like us, that are interested in what we're into, and expose them to things that they might not know are out there. I didn't 2.5 years ago, so it's there's a lot of good that comes out of it. And then I think of it this way too: when you're working or doing a job for somebody that that you're friends with, you're going to be a professional regardless of who you do business with. But when you know the person's knife you're working on, I know for me, who sent my knife in, whether it's psychological or not, I feel better about it because I know I have a connection with either the maker or the modder. And I've had, I've had several conversations when I picked up knives. I was like, man, you pick it. It means more for me for you to send me what you think is cool than me telling you something that who knows what I'm going to like.
Yeah. People get sick of me talking about my my custom Koa scale Saviti riffle that Andrew Hawaii Knife and Gear, which he can be found on EDC Roundtable as well. Let me bring that up too, guys. There's a lot of services and products on EDC Roundtable that aren't available right now, and I want to explain to y'all why they're not available. Some of it was taken down solely for the purpose of they didn't want it getting any attention or people spending any money buying that stuff while they were doing the Jason Brown raffle. That was completely unnecessary. They didn't have to do that. They just, a lot of the guys took some of their stuff down in the beginning just solely because so when you went to that website, primarily, what you were going to find there was the Jason Brown raffle stuff. Some of it is slowly going back up. But guys, if you know those dudes and you talk to them and find out the quantity that they're selling and the profit margins on it, it's so minute, man. They're doing it because they love it. But I only brought that up because if there's products that you've gone there looking for and you can't find them, that's why. Some of them took their stuff down until this is over, simply because they didn't want it to get confused. And somebody say, hey, I bought this wallet or this beard oil or this Hank because I thought it was going to Jason, and I found out it's not. So some of them just took their products down just to remove any confusion. So keep that in mind.
And as of this afternoon, Forrest did have some Jason Hanks up on the site. I wasn't in the position to grab one, but he's going to try to keep them up there, and there were some in stock today. Hey, Ashley.
Now, are these Hanks, are they falling under? I know the original run of Hanks he did, he wasn't even covering costs. He was donating every piece.
He'd say the same thing. This says.
So keep in mind, guys, it's not that he's just donating his profit.
Profits.
He's donating his cost. So he's paying for the materials. He's doing the labor to make these products and then selling them and donating every penny. So that's huge. Yeah, but I didn't want to just concentrate on those guys. Like I said, there's so many people. Y'all can keep throwing them up, man, because there's some I'm going to figure out. I would have never remembered Rocky Top. We didn't even talk about knife modders. Knife modders is out there making cool knives fucking sexy. You know what I mean? Just
they've got a lab that's, it's magical, the stuff that they do. I don't see how they turn around what they turn around, but it is stunning.
And how many times have you seen them talk about having their books closed, and yet somebody in the community since then has sent them a knife and got it back?
Yeah, so I've never seen somebody that they communicate with send something in and not get it worked on, even if their books are closed.
Stacey, I don't know who this is you're talking about. I have to look into this. Since Naftastic milling is incredible. I don't know that I've ever heard of Naftastic, but milling's not something everybody can do.
No,
so that's good to know. I don't think Richie's been doing milling very long. So, and their books stay closed a lot. So it's good to know.
Are they on Instagram? I'm gonna find them.
Yeah, Patina just brought up Cap City Creations. I've heard of them. I don't know that I've seen their work. Patina, maybe you can answer this. Who's this Sierra Bound? Is he doing mods, or does he just buy a lot of really cool modded stuff and show it off or sell it? I'm a little confused about who he is. I I've seen that he's trying to buy. He posted on Instagram that he was looking to purchase some Hinderer parts. Um, and maybe you could kind of fill us in on who Sierra Bound is. So I see Kyle said he's a collector.
But he also sells, right?
Collector.
Oh,
Okay, yeah. Patina said no. He's an insane collector. I got you. Yeah, I didn't know if he was doing some of that stuff himself or if he just really liked showing off his stuff. Man, he's got some beautiful stuff. He's
yeah.
kind of our modern day Dr. Funky.
I was following Naftastic EDC, which is the Naftastic Milling, and they do some very impressive work. So they're in the community. They might be worth giving a follow on Instagram or checking them out. Looks like they do a lot of 80-20.5 scales and some other custom stuff.
Yeah.
Look at
I don't
that.
have a whole lot of need for milling work because I own two titanium frame lock knives and I've showed both of them tonight. So I appreciate the beauty of these titanium frame lock knives. They just don't they don't work well for me. So and I find that I'm fortunate in that because that kind of keeps me in that under $200 realm. Because I'm
And
not.
you can get great knives for under $200, guys. I mean, I'm telling you, I won't say which ones, but there's some in my collection that are under $200 that are as good as anything I have. And one of them is in my pocket right now, even though Blade HQ pulled the fast one and they still hadn't responded to my video. But this little Max Ace Black Mirror,
Yeah.
I put an edge on it the other night and I put skiff bearings in it, double row bearings. And this little thing was $142. M390, full tie, neat sheep's foot blade. Look at the lock bar access.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a great knife.
I want to say this. I want everybody to pay really close attention because I want to go on record here. I am not saying that I know this. I'm saying that I feel this. Since you're talking about Max Ace, I've almost convinced myself that Max Ace is the company that was making the Hoback Sumo. And the reason I say that, that's actually a compliment because until we found out the truth, we were accepting that was an American, a really nice American-made knife, and he was getting away with it till he got caught. But I think that just speaks volumes for Max Ace because if indeed it was them, like I said, I'm not sure, but I feel like it is the quality. There's just something about those knives has gotten me convinced that that's who was making the Hoback knives. So,
are y'all familiar with what Blade HQ did? For those of you who shop there.
Oh, you're talking about the price hike?
Yeah, the price. Well, they took it out of stock right after Jared's video, which I thought it sold out. It made sense. And then the next morning, I went and checked it out, and it was on the site, the same titanium one for $189. It went from $142 to $189. And if you go to Max Ace's site, they're $142 for full tie and $148 for tie and carbon fiber. They're only 2 price points.
Right.
So it's just like going to Spyderco website to get a deal as opposed to Blade HQ. White Mountain still has them the same price when they come back in stock. But I just thought that was really crappy. And I can't think of any logical reason why they would do that. I could see if Max Ace raised their prices.
Well, I don't buy much from Blade HQ anyway, just because I know there's some smaller mom and pop shops out there. I thoroughly intend on the next few knives I buy, I'm going to buy from Justin OCD's for EDC's friends over there. Was it Northwest Knives? I want to do business with those people. Then there's that shop in North Carolina. NC Blades, I think. That's just a man and his wife. I'd much rather.
You got E-Knives. There's so many great retailers.
I wanted to address this subject with Tactical Center right here. Tactical Center, I agree with you 100% on that. And I'm not taking anything from that. but I would challenge you to find a maker that hasn't done that. And what I mean by, I'm not talking about the heat treat. I'm talking about and I'm not talking about him making clones. I'm talking about these freaked out over a knife that looks similar to his but wasn't the same. They have all done that. I can't think of a single maker that hasn't bitched about a knife that looks similar to theirs when if you look at theirs, you can back up 5 years and find something before it that looked just like it. I think we're just we're past the point of no return on originality. I don't know that there is any originality left in the knife industry.
I think it was MC who did a review tonight, and I forget what the knife was. It was that Pyrite, and he was showing it next to a bug out. And you know how he always plays the part of what the haters in the comments are going to say.
Yeah.
And he said, guys, yes, it looks like a bug out, but guess what? The bug out looked like every normal knife before it. That's just your basic knife for as long as people have been sharpening sticks. I thought that's kind of funny to say, but it's not, you know, and then you see some of these like the Stout. You know, I forget which Tucson it is, but there's similarities there. There are tons of differences. You know, it's hard to find something that's truly Winter Blade Co.
Somebody mentioned to me recently that that the American Blade Works Model 1 version 6 looks a lot like the Grimsmo Rask. I never thought that until they said it. And now looking at it, it is a lot similar in profile to the Rask. But is it a clone of the Rask?
Well, no.
It's not. But, you know, it is very similar in shape.
Well, even Bearded Gear says about the Luft concept of Blunt. It was an ode kind of to the paramilitary too and the Arius. Yeah. You know, he's not trying to hide the fact that he was inspired by knives that he liked. Well, anybody who designs a knife, I would think, would take the parts of what they like in a knife and integrate that into their design, which you're going to present similarities.
Yeah.
And then you got people that just rip stuff off.
Oh yeah, absolutely you do. You know, and I'm not a big fan of I have to say this. I'm not a big fan of the company Ferrum Forge. I'm a big fan of their designs though. And I feel like the Ferrum Forge finger troll should be on every knife made. You know, does that mean that everybody's copying Ferrum Forge? No. And what I mean by the Ferrum Forge finger trolls, they do a good job of actually doing the troll. They don't.
Right.
They're not one of those. A lot of them are bad. They'll make a troll that's almost a finger troll, which makes you want to put your finger in it, but it's going to get you hurt. You know, so you know that's the only reason why I'm a huge fan of Ferrum Forge is because of the troll. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Stacy. I'd kind of forgot about him. He is new on the scene. They're carrying, from what I've seen, Blue Creek's carrying everything from budget to high end. And man, hats off to those guys because I don't know if you know this, knife companies don't do consignment.
No.
And just
you
like
buy that inventory.
puts in these orders for these Tucsons, and he has to pay for them, and then hope that he got the models that everybody's going to want so that he can sell them and get his money back. There's just not enough markup that if you get stuck with a couple of knives, you could have made that entire order not unprofitable. You know, and we've seen him have to mark knives down to get rid of that. It didn't seem like anybody wanted. You know, so we can keep that in mind. Buy you next one, you know, help a brother out.
No doubt. And I'll tell you about Blue Creek Knives. I haven't met him personally, but I've only heard good things about him, and he's in every chat. And he's communicating with people.
In this economy, can you imagine dropping $30,000-$40,000 on a full inventory of knives to start your own knife distribution company in this economy?
No, I mean that takes a lot of
like Benchmade. You have to have a brick and mortar store. You know, and they're not the only ones. A lot of them, you can't just do it from home and just ship like Amazon. You have to have a brick and mortar store. So not only are you dropping all that money, you know, buying the inventory, but you know, all that overhead to start a business is something that's already so competitive, man. There are a lot of places to buy knives right now.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot knowing the people at St. Nick's Knives. I wouldn't call them a huge company, but they're a big enough company where they've got an online presence, and the amount of orders just the outstanding order they have with Crystal Reeve Knives right now will make your head spin. And then they've got Spyderco orders. They've got, you name it. You know, they are constantly keeping their stock.
It's funny you brought them up because the first time I went to St. Dick Knives, I wasn't with you. Every other time, you and I have gone, but I went to the one in the mall. So that's a standalone knife store. All they sell are pocket knives, some fixed blades, kitchen knives, and some higher end shaving supplies.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm very interested in because I didn't realize you can buy really nice, anodized titanium knurled razor that takes Gillette sensor blades. I didn't know that was a thing, but my point is that's all they sell. Now, like the St. Nick's store that you and I go to, that's a full-on gun shop, hunting supply place. So, there's a little bit of a buffer there. If the knife business isn't doing what it needs to, there's other things making up for it. So that's a little bit easier. But to rent a store in a mall, I don't know what it costs there, but here in Gadsden, at the Gadsden Mall, which is not near as busy as the one in Huntsville or as popular, at one point in time, a store that size was about $15,000 a month.
Yeah, and they've been there for 20 years, and
I just thought it was really funny because the first time I went in there, I noticed that we were standing at in that store, when you're standing at the Spyderco booth, you're between the Spyderco. If you're looking at the Spyderco, the Benchmades are behind you.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the stuff I wanted to see was right there in one section. Then there was this huge case on the back wall that was all M-Tech. And I asked the guy, I said, so why do you guys even carry that crap, man? You've got all this great coverage. He's like, man, that crap is the only reason the store's open.
Yeah.
He said, that crap covers the overhead. He said, and what profit we make comes from, what he called the higher end knives, which is just Benchmade, Spyderco, ProTech, Microtech. He said, that's our profit margin. He said, but that M-Tech crap, that pays the rent, the lights,
the swords, the nunchucks, the fantasy stuff that the kids are coming in and buying.
Yeah. I was amazed how many people walked in there and were paying. I don't think, was it $5? I think that lady charges to sharpen your knife.
Yep.
Yeah, she's just using a field sharpener.
Yeah, a little work sharp, Ken Onion.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Brian, Transparent Knives, my brother. I'm loving my 3V blade, buddy. I can't wait till I can get one commission from you.
Yeah, that's a whole other issue there. You got Brian that's taking knives that we love but aren't necessarily content with, and he's making them into high-end knives. We've all joked about the fact that you buy 80 20.5, you're giving $160 for the lock.
Yeah.
And you're paying $160 for the lock, and then you're paying Brian's price for the blade. And I've heard people complain about Brian's price for the blade, but let me tell you something, man. You're not even getting a Spyderco. You're getting a push to the very limits of what is possible edge geometry and heat treat. I don't know where else you can get what he's providing.
No, I don't know. More of a perfectionist, and I don't know this to be true, but it would not surprise me if he has to get rid of as many blades as he keeps just because he has such a strong benchmark for what he considers quality.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. I couldn't work with it. I love watching him work. I love hearing him talk about his work, but he'd fire me in a day.
But that's another person in the community that we didn't mention earlier who does a unique, amazing service that's friends with us, so why would you go anywhere else?
Right. So what do you end up with in a 20.5? So between the blade and the lock that you purchased, you're at around $450, and then with some OG titanium scale. So there are people out there with $600 in a 20.5. Am I correct?
Yeah, if you do it and go with a custom blade from Brian, you're looking at $150 plus say 350 plus your scales. We'll just call them 200.
Yeah, so that's $700.
But that's I mean, again, you can joke about that $150 lock, but that $150 lock's effective.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's not worth the money, because when it's all said and done, show me a knife manufacturer that's going to provide you with a blade even close to what Brian's providing.
And this one that he sent me off one of his standards is 3V, and I sharpened it up. And I mean, this thing is it's just whoops.
Scotty and I agree 100%. I would not have any issue with having $700 in that knife with that locking mechanism, that nice set of scales, and one of Brian's blades if it was an inch bigger. It's just
is it too small for you? You need the 80-20 point plus?
Too small for me. But now the 20 point, the 20, it's not that the 20 is too big, it's just too thick. I don't need, I've got an Adamas. I don't need another super hard use knife. I've got a couple of those, and that's plenty. I could own 100 super slicing knives, though, if I feel like I don't have enough. So yeah, the 20.5 is just a little small for me.
Yeah, it's kind of a favorite of mine. I don't know why, but I do carry it a lot. It does fit my hand well. I like the way, kind of like a Spyderco paramilitary too, that you can kind of do so much to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell people all the time the Spydercos are the Jeep Wrangler of the knife world. After you buy one, you can start buying all the accessories to bolt onto it. And, make it yours.
I've got as many Spydercos as any other knife, and my first knife when I re-entered the knife collecting world was the Dragonfly 2 in ZDP 189, the forest green one. And then the second nice knife I bought from St. Nick's at the mall, both of these were a Blurple S110V PM2. And then I kind of got into Civivs. I found all the online retailers, and I had those two Spydercos were my nice knives for a long time. Then I got a Benchmade bug out. And then slowly started coming back to Spydercos, because by that time I'd modded my Para 2, my Blurple, and I'd put some scales on it and realized that, there's just so much you could do. I added hardware, added a copper barrel for the lanyard, just, goofed off. Not that I needed to spend the money, but it's enjoyable.
That was my first knife over $200, and the first knife that I purchased at a brick and mortar. I went to St. Nick's and I bought the S110, the Blurple PM2, and it's still in this house somewhere, and I haven't seen it for over a year. But
you're gonna find it. And it's gonna be a victory.
I hope, because I had just put a CME on it, and yeah, it's heartbreaking. But I missed the S110 so much that I did. I just yesterday I bought Chaz Lot Sharp Stuff. I bought his Manix 2 lightweight in S110, so I'll have another S110 blade. And I know a lot of people don't like S110, but once again, I feel like it's kind of the same thing as people complaining, about their, they can't pry a door open with their bug out. Well, that's not what it was made for. I do treat my S110 as if it's fragile, but I do love its cutting performance. But
that's mine now.
I love the Blurple scales.
I do too.
Did yours have like the dark, like there's a dark area in it? Like
mine were pretty consistent. I've seen the ones with the dark area in them. And one thing I'll say about Spyderco's G10 is it's some of the best G10 out there.
Yeah.
I mean, the grip, but for me, it wasn't that I didn't like the Blurple scales, and I still kept them, and I kept the original hardware, but there's just so much. It's just such a canvas knife. There's just so many different things you can do to it. And it doesn't cost an arm and a leg, and you get kind of a new knife.
Right. Yeah, when I bought that factory second at Blade Show, and you were sweet enough to hook me up with just that blue hardware. Man, that completely changed the look of that knife. You know, I'll be honest, when I got home with it, it just laid on my table for the first few weeks. I wasn't excited about it at all because it wasn't my Blurple S110. And but once I put just those added blue screws, made me want to carry it more. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, and that was the best find at Blade Show. I saw Stevie's from Blade Show West, and his had a big mark on the blade, but yours had that tiny little, I mean, like a big pin mark on it on the scale.
Yeah. It does. It's strange because even if I don't use the knife, I've noticed that I can get it centered and lay it down and come back a week later and it'll be slightly off. I don't understand that. I could understand if I was flicking it a lot.
Right.
But I've also realized that once it gets just that hair off center, it doesn't get any worse. So I don't care. I bought that knife to be a user anyway. So I've quit readjusting it to get it back to center because it's going to go right back. It's not going to get any worse. It's going to stay there. So I just leave it be now. But for $78 for any pocket knife with well heat treated Maximate, I'll take it.
No doubt. No doubt. And that's one thing of all my little psychological quirks and weirdities. I'm so glad I don't have OCD for things like that. Blade centering, if it's not rubbing and I can get it close, it doesn't have to be perfect. But I just feel for poor Kevin when I see him just looking at a knife, trying to see if it's centered when you can't even barely tell, but he can, and I get it.
Yep, you're right there. Yeah, and I have OCD, and there are a lot of things that drive me crazy, but for some reason, blade center is not one of them. If it's not at the scale, I really don't care.
Yeah, I just hate to think that something like that would ruin a knife for me.
Right. One of the things that does drive me nuts, which has been a very controversial topic lately, is the final sharpening bevels. I've run into a lot of knives that even using the fixed angled system, you can tell the grind is different, at one spot in the blade than it is the other. I'm seeing more and more videos going up about the guy from Canadian Cutting Edge, and people getting pissed off. But I don't know what to think about all that. I don't think he meant to piss people off. I think he was trying to get a little attention, and it rubbed a lot of people wrong. But I do have to agree with him. That is an issue for me. However, I don't feel like it can be an issue on the type of knives that he reviews.
No, because I've got one of my.
If you're reviewing an Effengrau and your complaint is that the secondary bevel is uneven, you're not even talking about the fact that they probably lied to you about what the steel is, and the fact that it costs $7 to make and you give 40 for it. There's plenty of reasons to be upset beyond that final grind.
I've got one of my favorite Little American Makers knives, a mini that's got, and you can see it where the bevel's off. And I could have easily sent it back when I got it, but it doesn't affect anything. It will when I sharpen it. It'll take a little more time. And I feel like, not everybody's perfect. To me, that's just a little unique, something that doesn't bother me.
And it is one of the few human aspects left on most knives.
Yeah.
Most knives now are, being, EDM wire cut, and then they're being CNC ground. With a lot of knives, the only human aspect anymore is the assembly and that final sharpening edge. So, it could be better, but I agree with you on that. And I don't even try, even though it bothers me, I don't try to get it all out on the first sharpening. If I realize it's there, I get the knife good and sharp, and I just accept the fact that it's going to be a couple of sharpenings from now.
Right, and it'll work itself out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave that alone. You're gonna get me in trouble. But I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
They do their best. They give it an elementary school try.
Yeah. 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 I'm trying to I'm trying to bridle my passion about that subject. Um, you know,
Well, you just keep being you, Shane. Your passion's bridled enough, and when it comes out authentic and it's truthful. And whether people agree with it or not, we're not all going to agree. You just be you, and that's what makes it fun.
yeah, 'cause me and Tactical Center there, we've had some conversations. You know, there for a little while, I thought he was just purely a troll because you know he always brings up a a little controversy in the comments of most of my videos. But I've learned that first of all, I'm appreciative that he's commenting on my videos. You know, but uh, I've tried to dial that back and actually have conversations with him because he is, you know, he is. Hey, look at there! I got some corn bots. That may be a first.
Am
But
I?
anyway, he is educated and he is kind of doing the same thing I'm doing. He's bringing things to light that I heard somebody say this today that it's a shame that the truth has become so offensive. You know, because I get a little offended when he brings things up that I don't want to admit. You know, but you know, the truth's the truth. You know, I tell people all the time, if you want to buy one knife and know that you're going to get a good heat treat, buy a Spyderco. I still feel like that's the truth most of the time. That does not mean that it's not possible to get a poorly heat treated Spyderco. It just
Sure.
is. You know, that can happen. You know, it used to happen a lot actually. A lot of people, you know, so that the majority of us have been in this for 2 to 3 years now. Some of us 4, but so a lot of people weren't around and don't remember Super Still Steve walking around at Blade Show with a was it a fuck you Spyderco shirt on
Mm-hmm.
because they were lying about HRCs, you know, and a lot of people don't like Steve because he's so abrasive, but look at the result. You know, he showed his ass. You know, he was hateful about it, and you know they fixed it. I'm not saying that it was purely because of him, but the issue got fixed. You know, and it's
We're fortunate to have voices like his and people like him in the community because there is a lot of times where people need truth checks.
right,
People need to kind of humble themselves and hear another perspective
right,
because it's just like, I mean, we all have different opinions and a lot of them we're passionate about, but that's what opens to me the forum for constructive debate to help both people learn.
yeah.
You know, but so much now in these days and age, it's just fuck you, you're wrong. You know, it's just there's
And
more
to me,
hate.
that was the tragedy of the Hinder / Transparent Knives debacle. That was the actual tragedy in all of it was that there was such an opportunity there for Rick to open his ears and hear what at least a portion of the community was saying and what they're wanting. You know as well as I do. If right now he dropped a XM18 in Magna Cut at 64 HRC and he put some cool name on it, you know, to differentiate that this is the high edge retention knife, you'd be paying double for it on eBay tomorrow. It would
Yeah,
he could make so much. Now maybe it falls back on that whole bench babe thing where he can't make enough already, so why does he care? I get all that, but there was an opportunity there for him to listen, and even if it didn't end in him making any more profit because of the new line of knives, or even if the final result wasn't him improving his product, he could have shown the entire community that he's listening.
exactly.
You know,
And
he
he
could
could
come
have,
out and said, "Hey guys, I'm making 10,000 knives a month right now. It's not enough. I can't fill orders. If and when I can ever get to a point that we can add this, I'd be glad to." That would almost urge me more to buy a Hinder now, even though it's not improved. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Um, it was just a blown opportunity. I said that from the get go. I told Brian that.
On a lot of levels it was, because I believe that he could have shared with Brian his philosophy that might have made Brian see things a little different, and then Brian sharing the factual information with Rick they could have just had a discussion about it. They both love knives, they're both passionate about what they do, so it's unfortunate that it turned the way it did.
But I can understand. Just like I was just saying, I've actually complained and got a little butt hurt about, Tactical Center questioning me in some of my videos. I didn't like it. Well, who am I? I'm not the end all know all. So there's nothing wrong with him questioning the validity of some of the things that I say, because that pretty much is what Brian was doing, and Rick responded poorly.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just really glad to see him in the chat tonight and communicating with folks, so I know that he's not just sitting at home waiting on me to post a video so he'll have something to say about it. And we do agree on a lot of stuff once we start talking, but
and that's the point. That's why talking is the best way to work through disagreements or misunderstandings or semantics. And a lot of times it's just the way we describe something compared to how someone else envisions something. We could be talking about the exact same thing. It's just using different language.
Right. Yeah, you're 100% right. Like I had, I recently, because I hate doing negative videos. The last thing I wanted to do was have to admit that I sent this knife back, that I had to send this knife back. I want American Blade Works to be successful so badly that I didn't want to share any negative information. But I'm not going to lie to anybody about anything. I did have an issue, took good care of it. Would it have been better if it had been perfect when I bought it? Well, of course it would. But I struggled. Zach recently was kind enough to loan me a Benchmade readout, and I don't think I did a negative video on the readout. I think a lot of people have the same opinion on that knife. It's not that it's a bad knife. It just it has an identity crisis. If when I approached Benchmade at Blade Show, and they told me that they're either not planning to do some things, or some of the things that they're wanting to do is going to be way down the line because they can't make enough knives now. Well, then why did you make the readout?
Right.
You already had a really, really good knife in that exact category. The readout is never going to be, in my opinion, it's never going to be as good a knife as the Freak was. So why cancel the Freak to make the readout? I just don't understand. Bring the Freak back. Maybe make an improvement to it. Could have put it out there with a different steel. I'm sure it would have sold out. It just confused me. But
right. It just doesn't really, to me, it doesn't really fall in the line, but they're lying. It doesn't seem to have a place. Yeah, but I guess it's for that lower.
Is it a good knife? Sure it is. Do I have a problem with it being D2? Not from Benchmade, I don't. I've got a ProTech here in CPM D2 that I love. I don't have any issues with that knife being D2. So the steel wasn't even the issue for me. The FRN or whatever they call it, handles, wasn't an issue for me. It was just the fact that if you only have so much time to make so many knives, and you've produced so many wonderful cutting tools in the past that you're not now, why this?
Yeah.
The tag dot makes perfect sense. I believe it does. It's a full size bug out. That makes perfectly good sense. The readout just didn't for me. I don't understand it. Somebody brought up again last night about the TR4. Somebody asked if they made a TR4 in a manual, and a couple different people said they don't. They do. But let me give all you guys a piece of advice. Don't buy it. The reason I say that is they're sold out already. So if you buy one, you're buying it secondhand. It's not a great knife. It's a good knife, but it's not a great knife. But the reason I'm telling you not to buy it is because they're about to re-release it. So the TR4 button lock that's going to come out sometime in the near future is going to be more like the Malibu. It's going to be on bearings. It's going to have great action. The TR4 button lock that I own has horrid action. Guys, I took this knife apart and it literally, the blade rides on the aluminum scale on one side. There's not even a washer. It's just a 154 cm blade riding on the aluminum. And on the other side, it has a little wavy tension washer that I guess serves as kind of like the detail. It's a horrible design. It doesn't open good. It doesn't shut. Literally, you have to mash the button, sling that thing to get it to go shut. If you back it off enough to free the action up some, then you can actually, when you squeeze it, you can hear the scales clicking together. So there's no adjustment either. So
Yeah.
if you're interested, don't buy an older model one right now. Wait till the new ones comes out. It's going to be awesome. I regret that I've got the bad one.
You can probably get rid of it though. It's probably worth money just being the age that it is.
Yeah. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I almost feel bad passing it on, to be honest with you, because people now already have in their mind that if it's a Protect button lock, it's going to be like the Malibu.
Right.
It's not even close.
Yeah, I really want to try one of the new Mordaxes. I've not seen one in the wild.
I kind of blew my opportunity on that. I was gonna get one, and my budget discipline kind of failed on me. I bought that Bradford, and I spent some money on the Jason Brown rifle, which I don't regret that at all. And then I bought that Manix 2 and S110V, so I've kind of blown my knife budget. I'm not going to be able to get the Mordax for now, but
it'll be around. It'll be one that'll keep it on.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to wait until it. I'm sure it's gonna sell for over MSRP for a little while. I'll have to wait till it comes back down.
No doubt. Do many people still do that? I mean, I know they do on the secondary, but do your retailers? They don't pop them up over, do they?
No, I'm talking about on the secondary.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll sell out here pretty quick. Whenever. Is it available online yet? I know people bought them at Blade Show.
I haven't seen it in the wild. I've seen the ones people post from Blade Show. What up, Todd Carr? What's up, pretty fly for a nice guy?
Can you tell how many people we have in here, John? I have no way.
I can probably tell if I look on my phone. Let me see. 36.
That's not bad at all, man. I really appreciate all you coming. I apologize for not going live last week and not letting you know until the last moment, but I was a little sick, so didn't get to do it. And I guess I need to apologize for the week before that. It kind of went off the rails. It wasn't a knife show at all.
I missed that one. I must have, or fell asleep. I think that's the one I fell asleep during. I have to go back and watch it.
Yeah, that one was a little bit personal, but it's all right.
That's what it is, man. It's a time for you to share your opinions and pontificate and muse, and your audience will either understand, talk to you about it, and get something out of it, or they'll log out.
Right.
It's your world, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I do hope to be getting better at this. I still need to I'd really like to have a decent little setup in the background, and it seems like every time I say I'm going to do that, before I know it, it's Saturday and I haven't done it yet.
Hey, man, you do the most important thing, which is put out good content that is enjoyable to watch, whether it's the back of your truck or it's in your house. Just keep being you, man. You can always add stuff as you need to. The last thing I want to do is spend hours editing. I know my content needs a lot of work, but the way I look at it, I can get more out and I'm really just going through the way knives make me feel for my collection. So I'm not trying to influence people to do this, that, or the other.
Right.
I'm just kind of talking about it. So yeah, I hope I don't get too into the whole production value thing, because I feel so bad for Kyle or Cole, how long he has to take just to get a video out. And it shows. I mean, his quality is unbelievable.
The quality of his videos speaks for itself.
It does.
It's incredible. You know, and I'll say this so it'll be on record. I firmly believe in 5 years he may be on top. Maybe
I bet you in 5 years, Kara's got more followers than he does on Instagram.
Well, let's say this, and in 5 years, Dave may be on top. And that's not taking anything away from Metal Complex or Jared or any of that. Cole just has a knack. You know, he's got a great sense of humor. You know, he does occasionally talk about things he's not knowledgeable about.
That's all of us. That's all of us. Yeah. But he's creative. He's entertaining. Yes.
And he doesn't have to talk about knives. Cole could do. He could have picked any niche he wanted to, and done well with it. Probably done better if he had not picked knives. To be honest with you. You know,
yeah. Well, if you listen to his story, he was doing a lot of stuff in fountain pens and a couple of other car stuff. And he found the knife community to be the most welcoming and where he found his success.
Yeah. Mark Herrera, you're 100% correct. That's a very good point. One of the reasons why I like Cole is he doesn't take himself seriously. You know, I hate when people do that. I don't hate the people. I just hate when they have to do that. You know, there's no point in taking yourself that seriously. You know, he can laugh at himself. He can laugh at you, making fun of him, and that just makes it a lot of fun. You know, we get a little sideways in Cole's lives sometimes.
We do. Yeah. And I'll tell you this, and it wasn't just Cole, but I did spend the weekend with Cole. We stayed together, and he is just like everybody else I met there. What you see is the authentic person that you're meeting, that you're spending time with. I was not once surprised by that. Doesn't seem familiar. It's just, I mean, you're dealing with real people that are sharing their real thoughts, and they're just sharing it with people. And I think that's cool.
I can't agree with you 100% there. I met one that surprised me. I'm not going to say who it was, but one out of, you know, all the people that I met, not just talking about people with channels, but people from the chat, everybody was 100% authentic, exactly who I thought they would be. So, you know, I can handle, and I'm not saying this guy was a freaking axe murderer. I'm just saying, he's not. We'll move on.
you didn't feel the authenticity and the love for community. You just saw, yeah.
But you are right. It was amazing how, you know, you get this perception of who people are, and I think in our world you just learn to expect to see differences when you actually meet them, and it was mind-boggling how authentic almost everybody was.
And how familiar it seemed to bump into people. It wasn't like you were bumping into somebody for the first time and meeting them.
Absolutely not. You know, when I walked up behind Sid Stevie and tapped him on the shoulder, it was the first time we'd ever been in the same building, but it didn't feel that way.
No.
You know, when I met Jared Neve, when I met Richie and Lindy, Bob DeMarco, just everybody. You know, none of them felt like it was the first time meeting. Yeah, but it didn't feel that way when you and I met the first time in Huntsville.
No. And same with Tad. I mean, it's just it's a different. We're lucky to have a community like we have, and we're lucky that it's centers around really cool things like knives. But man, we get into some deep psychology in some of these late nights that are, you know, giving me a lot of pause and reflection and been helpful.
Oh yeah, man, we've all, you know, when you go from the subject matter that's in some of Pocket Metal's lives, and then the very next night you could be in Backpack Bees and everybody's in tears, and it's mind blowing. The broad spectrum of emotion and the topics that we get to talking about in some of these, especially the late night
Which just shows me that we all generally care about each other, that we are a tribe. We're not just people that are, watching for.
I really feel like Grateful Panic was kind of the pioneer to that.
Yep.
Before him, the lives were just, they were always, they were always primarily about the knives and that, and Panic took it to a whole different place. And now I'm not saying everybody's copying that, but they enjoyed it so much that, it's leaning more towards that than it is knives. We tried to have a conversation about knives in here. How much return did we get off of that? It wasn't a whole lot, but yeah, I think we need to give credit to John for kind of pioneering that whole movement.
Yeah, just being, almost like an online helpline. It was just a place that I always wanted to be, and I'm glad to see that more people are doing it. And it's just it's cool. That's what I do at night. I tune into live streams. I don't watch any other type of content.
I don't either. I remember a couple of years ago we'd looked at having our cable turned off, and of course in my mind all that was going to leave us with was Netflix. I was like, that's just not enough. I can't do it. Beginning of football season, I decided one Sunday I was going to watch an NFL game. I'm still an NFL fan, but I'm what they call a Sports Center fan. I like to watch the highlights.
Yeah.
Get the good stuff. We realized that we had moved our entertainment center 2 years ago. And when I went to watch that football game, we realized that the cable box wasn't hooked up and hadn't been hooked up for 2 years. We've been paying a cable bill every month for 2 years on a box that's not even connected to our television. All I watch is, I won't say all, 95% of what I watch is YouTube. I'll jump on Amazon or Netflix and watch something if I'm really interested in it, but I don't spend mindless time watching things just to watch them on there. I spend all my mindless time on YouTube, but I really enjoy it. How are we talking about my orange and white shirt?
What's that?
Kyle, that's where my orange and white shirt was. That one went over. I'm not sure. I must be.
That was a Vols. That was a Vols reference.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not an Alabama fan.
I'm not either. That's why I was like, yeah, go Vols.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. We were actually at a small independent wrestling event Saturday, and the guy sitting in front of me pulled it up on his phone the last 5 minutes of the game, and everybody, the wrestling hadn't started yet, so everybody was gathered around, huddled over each other's shoulders, watching all that go down, and none of them were Alabama fans, so everybody thoroughly enjoyed it. But
well, they almost lost it last weekend too. That was a heartbreaker for me to watch them pull it out at the end, and I knew it was a matter of time. But they'll still end up buying their way to number one.
Yeah. I actually posted on Facebook. I posted "Go Vols." Left a comment about how I could never do that again, but I have to be careful here because we have to play them this coming Saturday. So
I'm glad you're here, budget guy.
Yeah.
Sorry it took me so long to get that sledgehammer out to you after that giveaway.
Man, I'm going to be honest about something. I get budget guy for knife and tool and budget blade review confused. And what I mean by I get them confused a lot is I get my conversations with them confused a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like if I've had a conversation with BBR about something, I may I may try to continue that conversation with Budget Guy the next time I see him in a live. I don't know why I can't. I mean, I know they've both got budget in their name, but that's not a decent excuse. But I can't keep my conversations with those two. I also have the same problem between uh, Kyle Kunel and Josh Branson for some reason.
For me, it was always an E and G. He'll slap me for this, but it was E and G and Ian Coates.
Really?
Even though they don't look the same, it was just something about the name and the underscore that made me go, okay, which is which?
Yeah. I don't have a problem differentiating who they are. I just have an issue remembering which one I had what conversation with.
Right.
Yeah. Because I'd actually told I was going to ship Josh Branson a knife and then messaged Kyle Kunel about, when I was going to ship the knife. And then I realized, wait a minute, now I've told two people I was going to send them that knife. Just because I got
It's
them.
amazing we get our knives back, and I don't even know where they are sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a really stressful moment with a couple of Satu Days knives, man. It was one of those situations where everything that could go wrong did. First of all, I forgot to send him a picture of the tracking number, and then I lost the receipt. And then 8 or 9 days had passed, and I shipped them FedEx, and he didn't have them. And when I realized that he didn't have them yet, I freaked out because I didn't have anywhere to turn.
Yeah, you didn't
All
have
the
your.
tools that I was supposed to have to figure it out, I didn't. So I drove to FedEx, and it just so happens it was a new girl working, and she didn't even know how to look it up. That made it even worse. Luckily, they were right there in his hometown at FedEx, waiting on him. He would pick them up, so it's, nothing lost. Boy, it scared me
Yeah,
bad,
it'll scare you to death when you're trying to figure that stuff out.
especially his stuff. I mean, man, I can't pay for his stuff if I lose it.
Yeah, well, a lot of it's not replaceable, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah, some of it can't be replaced, and even if it could, I don't have that kind of money. That's scary, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shipping's tough. Shipping in certain areas, it just seems more risky to ship. And I don't know if that's just because I only hear stories about that area or if it is because I hear nightmare stories about shipping to California.
Yeah. Fastest shipping I've ever got, believe it or not, was Andrew from Hawaii Knife and Gear shipped me a knife from Hawaii, and it was on my doorstep in 22 hours.
Isn't that amazing? Because they're putting it on a plane and it's coming straight to.
It ships faster from Hawaii than it does California because it goes straight on the plane and probably lands in Atlanta. They unload it. It goes on the truck. I don't know the whole process, but yeah, it's crazy to think that shipping from Hawaii is faster to Alabama than shipping from California.
Yeah.
The worst I've had is actually Jared Neves area. That the whole Chicago, anywhere around Chicago.
Yeah, there's that one post office that'll just sit in and never update.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Wait on a package that's supposed to be here in 2 days. Yeah, I got scared a few times waiting on my stuff to come back from Jared, and he tells us, hey, man, this happens to everybody. It'll be all right. Just wait it out. It always showed up, but it would take forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fortunate that I haven't had any come up missing, so I'll just count my blessings there. That's awesome, Stacy. I wanted to go to Auburn, but I'm an Auburn fan.
Yeah. Well, guys, what time is it? Yeah, we've been at it almost 2 hours. It's a little longer than I usually go anyway. I think I'm getting pretty sleepy, but man, John, I really want to thank you for coming on. I don't know if you people have ever tried this, but it's really hard to do this by yourself. It's really hard to, just engage people for an hour and think of things to talk about. And, when you look over at the comment section, 85 to 90% of it is you guys talking amongst yourselves. So, it's hard to jump in those conversations. I'm not saying don't do that, because I do that too. It's great that y'all are having conversations over there, but it's hard to pick up and come up with something to talk about. So man, I really appreciate you coming on with me, and you guys all know that I appreciate any amount of time y'all spend with me. It means the world to me. Now my father's going to show up right as we're leaving, but yeah.
What's up, Knife Modders?
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate you letting me come on, buddy. And it's just like talking to you on the phone. It's just like a conversation. That's what makes it easy and makes it fun. So I'm always available for you.
Figure out which knife modder it is yet by how they say hello? I'm going to guess, because it was lowercase yo, that it's Richie. So let's give it a second to find out if I'm right.
I'm guessing it's I'm gonna go with Lindy.
Are you? I know Lindy.
I think you're right, but I've got to go the opposite side. It's like a knife fight. We can't both say Warncliffe. They're not going to tell us now. It's probably both of them.
I got it. It is Richie. Good deal.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and Richie's more the night owl anyway. You might see Richie jump on Backpack B at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Hey man, that's when I wake up like at 2 or 3, and I'll stay up till 4 or 5 and then fall asleep for 30 minutes. My sleep schedule's so jacked up. You might see me on a stream at any time.
Yeah.
But guys, I appreciate everybody coming out, and all I wanted to say is just continue to look out for the guy to your left, the guy or gal to your right, and just love each other. I mean, life's short, very short, and y'all are all precious, so don't let disagreements draw y'all apart.
And I will have John back on with me in the very near future so that he can go into detail about the instructions on how to enter into the grand prize giveaway for Knives Live. Guys, I apologize. We had a little more time this year, but we put some of it on the back burner because we didn't want to take any attention away from the raising money for Jason Brown's family. It is still happening. The information may come. A lot of the information may come all at once, but I do want to have it on so that
schedule's on my community tab, and I'll share it out, and other people can put it on their community tab so you can see whose spots when. It starts at Tri-States. I want to say at 6 Central.
That's correct.
And then it ends at Jared's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got all the time.
Sure Jared's just going to go more than an hour because that's going to run into his regular time.
Yeah.
But yeah. But like I said, I do want to have John back on so he can tell you guys exactly, where to go read the information and actually verbally give you the information on how to enter, because we don't want anybody to miss out because they didn't know how to do it. Because last year we had some amazing packages. We hope to meet that that same threshold this year. But like I said, man, it means the world to me that some of you guys show up in here. Lindy and Richie and Transparent Knives. Some of these guys that that I've got notifications turned on for. I get excited to go watch them. The fact that they even show up in my little live stream means the world to me. But anyway, yeah, I got to hit the sack, guys. I appreciate any amount of time y'all spend with me. Peace. Love y'all.
I love y'all.
See ya.
Bye, guys.